Good morning, everyone. My name is Tom Vesely, and I'm the Business Development Manager here at SSE Network Services. We want to thank you all for attending our presentation today for the Equifax Data Breach Security Briefing and Protection Tips webinar. But before we begin, I'd like to share a little bit more about who we are. We are a local IT support group who have served the St. Louis and metro areas for over 30 years now and providing unique value when it comes to managed IT support, services, and business continuity. We build partnerships with local small to mid-sized businesses to not only help them in the server room, but in the boardroom as well. And with our ISO 9001-2008 certification, customer satisfaction is our highest priority. In utilizing our standardized processes and technology, our clients can expect predictable, repeatable, and consistent results from us when it comes to their technology and support. Now, however, partnerships are built on communication, and our team maintains regular communication to provide peace of mind that your network is being proactively monitored and managed as you expect, as well as building a technological roadmap for the future with you to ensure your business and technology are always in tight alignment. And we're always striving to improve and work to exceed expectations when it comes to IT support and business continuity, because we know at the end of the day that your success is our success. And we hope you find the following presentation insightful and beneficial. And now I pass you over to our VCIO, Vince Seacrest. Vince, go ahead and take it away.
So good morning and welcome. Happy everyone could join us this morning. I hear we have a pretty full group, and we really have an interesting and valuable topic to talk about today in the Equifax Data Security Briefing. I would suggest, if you don't have one handy, to grab a notepad. I'm going to be giving you a few valuable resources throughout the presentation, particularly some websites that will allow you to very quickly see whether or not your personal data has been compromised. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. We really have 4 items we'd like to talk about on the agenda today. Just very briefly, a couple things about who is Equifax. We'd really like to talk about, more or less, I put it together in a timeline perspective, what happened behind the scenes so that you can kind of see the sequence of events. Number 3 is probably the one that is most relevant. What are the risks to you? And we'll go through all those. And then at the very end, we put together some really nice tips, got a lot of references and locations you can go to get additional information. And of course, this webinar will also be saved up on our website later. And then at the very end, we'll have some Q&A. So if you have any questions, again, feel free to type those in as we're going along. So who is Equifax? As you are, I'm sure, are aware, Equifax is one of the very big 3 consumer credit reporting agencies in the United States, along with Experian and TransUnion. In general, does this affect you? Well, if you have a credit report, which most of us do, there's a 50% chance or a 1 in 2 chance that your account was one of the ones that's been compromised. So one of the things we're going to show you today is how you can quickly see if you're in that list. So let's go ahead and dive in. Let's talk about what happened. First of all, I put some more detail here because we are a technical company, but in general, if you notice here at the top, what happened? Well, the Equifax website was running some free open source software, basically to help support their Java web applications. The software was called Apache Struts. Any software that's ever developed, we all know software is developed by humans. Humans have a certain percentage of error. There's going to be bugs found. There are going to be security vulnerabilities found. So any software that's out on the internet is going to be especially vulnerable because it's available all the time. So the big takeaway here is on March the 6th, 2017, and I've tried to put a calendar down here so you can follow along in the sequence, because when I'm trying to figure out what happened post-mortem, I like to put it in a calendar version so I can kind of see, hey, how did this actually pan out? So essentially on March the 6th, Apache Struts and security researchers in tandem announced that there was a pretty significant security vulnerability that had been found in the Apache Strut software. I think possibly there could be some consideration that when they put out this notification, they didn't maybe emphasize the criticality of this security concern. The same day, March 6th, that security researchers made the notification, the maker of the software, Apache Struts, put out a fix that same day. So keep in mind this date, March 6th. Now, what's interesting is one day later, and this is really important to realize, is if you have software that's out on the internet, as soon as the vendor says there's a hole in it, all the hackers in the world know that it's going to take some amount of time for all the folks that have vulnerabilities to patch them. So therefore, it's not unusual that if they announce on March 6th, there's a huge vulnerability, security researchers started seeing the very next day, March the 7th, there were hackers out there trying to search the internet, find websites that were running the Apache Struts software and trying to exploit it. Okay, so that takes us from March 7th. We jump over a month later. Nothing has happened so far on the Equifax website. We jump over March 8th, so 2 months after the security vulnerability was identified and fixed. We know that based on the announcements from Equifax that sometime mid-May was when the compromise happened. So this is out on the Equifax website that was running this OpenStruts software. Sometime around mid-May through the end of June is where for sure they know the compromise happened. So what does that mean? That means that personal information for 143 million consumers was exposed, along with about 209,000 credit card numbers. Also, some driver's licenses were exposed, as well as some information from UK and Canada consumers. Okay, so how did this proceed? Well, we know that, again, the patch came out on the 7th. The exploit happened around mid-May. We know that it was discovered essentially on the 29th. So on the 29th of July, excuse me, wrong month here, 29th of July, Equifax did notice on the security side that there was some strange traffic going on to their network. They did block that traffic, and then they noticed that on the 30th, there was still strange traffic going out. So we jump over to August the 2nd. Equifax reached out to an outside security firm, Mandiant, everyone's heard of them, to essentially help them do a diagnosis. So all we know is that during the month of August, from the 2nd through the month of August, Mandiant was working with Equifax to do an analysis. This is when they were actually able to confirm kind of what happened, what was compromised, and then ultimately that results in the first public release, which came out September 7th, and that's when Equifax rolled out a support package to consumers that we're going to talk about here today. Okay, so let's talk about what is the risk to you, okay? Well, what was exposed, I guess, is the first thing. So we know credit agencies have all of our credit information. So what information was exposed? Names, Social Security numbers, birth dates, and addresses. So as you may know, if you call into any of the accounts that you have, whether it's your bank account or some other credit card company, typically they're going to ask you names, addresses, Social Security numbers, things like that. So all that information has been exposed. In some instances, driver's license numbers were exposed. They did also indicate that 209,000 credit cards were exposed, as well as personal information from some of the folks in UK and Canada. Okay, so what is the risk to you? Well, the number one risk that you really need to be concerned about is identity theft, okay? So I can't emphasize this enough. For the rest of your life, if you're in this group of exposed information, you will be the subject to identity theft, because that will mean that once this information has been extracted from Equifax, it's going to get out there on the dark web. It's going to be available, and essentially it'll be available there forever. So that information that was hacked, folks will be able to access it for years and years to come. So this is a fairly significant impact. If 1 in 2 Americans are impacted, and they are not only temporarily impacted, they're impacted for the rest of their lives. So what other things do we need to worry about? Well, tax identity theft, okay? Every year, the IRS reports cases where folks are coming in filing fake tax returns. Obviously, If your name, your social security number, your address has been taken, you would be subject to potentially having someone try to file for any authorized return. Obviously, they could use this if they got your credit card number and make purchases. Probably the very critical thing right up there with identity theft is folks could come out there and open new lines of credit in your name. They now know your name and information and the background to do that. And then finally, you should be aware, and this is kind of an underlying theme, is you now, from this point forward, would be subject to social engineering attacks. So, for example, someone could call you up and say, hey, this is Equifax, and your account was breached, and here's your social security number, and we need to work with you. And they're going to have your personally identifiable information, so it could make it appear like it's a legitimate call or email. So just be aware of these 5 items: identity theft, tax theft, credit card purchases, potential unauthorized new lines of credit, and social engineering attacks. Okay, let's talk about some top tips to protect yourself. Before we get into the personal tips, I was looking out on some of the government websites, and this website that I list right here, the securityfocus.com/bid/9679 or 96729/info, this gives you a very quick list of software, common software that runs this Apache Struts software. So if you're a business or you're associated or using a website that has this is a good website to go to just to see what common business software is impacted. So just wanted to throw that out there for everybody. So the first thing that you want to do, and this is probably the most important thing, is was your social security number, your personal information in the hack, or was it not in the hack? So Equifax has set up a third-party website called EquifaxSecurity2017.com, and I'm just going to drag this over here. This is the website that they've set up. So if you have this particular website and you go to it, there's a bunch of different things that they have, but in general, if you look at the top, there's a little link called Potential Impact. So if you click on Potential Impact, it's going to give you a little bit of information here on the screen, and then there's a big red button at the bottom that says Check Potential Impact. If you click that, it's going to bring up this little box. And in this box, you're really going to be asked for 2 things. You're going to be asked for your last name, and you're going to be asked for the last 6 digits of your social security number, and then you're going to be asked to click on this little link here so it confirms that you're not a robot. Now, once you go through and you do this check, it's going to tell you that whether or not you were in the pool. So this is really the very quick way. Now, I would caution and say just because they say you're not, don't think you're totally in the clear. This is a brand new breach, so there are opportunities to monitor your credit. So even if you're not in that first list, you may want to take advantage of some of these opportunities out there, particularly the free ones, just to be on the safe side. So moving to the next tab, what are some of the things that you can do? Well, first of all, if you're impacted, and even if you're not, what are some of the steps that you should take? Well, the first thing you should do is you should check your credit reports, right? Again, there are 3 agencies, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. And if you open a new line of credit, or if someone is charging on your account, or if one of your accounts becomes delinquent, it is going to be reported to one of these credit agencies, ideally all of them. But it is important for you to realize there are 3 agencies and that you would need to check all 3 of them on an ongoing basis in order to kind of have a full perspective of your credit. So step 1 would be check your credit report. Step 2 would be the suggestion to sign up for ongoing credit monitoring from all 3 agencies. Listed a few of the options that you can see out here. First of all, there are many paid options besides these. These we're just trying to put up as a free option. But annualcreditreport.com, Credit Karma, and Equifax, These are locations where you can go and check your credit offering. Now, this bottom one, this is the website that I showed you. This is what they're offering, okay? They're offering credit file monitoring and identity theft perfection. They're calling it Trusted ID Premier. It is providing a 3-bureau credit monitoring of Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion credit reports. It is providing copies of your Equifax credit reports. It is giving you the ability on this particular site to lock and unlock your Equifax credit reports. Keep in mind that does not lock and unlock Experian or TransUnion. They are providing identity theft insurance up to $1 million. And interestingly, they're providing internet scanning for your Social Security number for U.S. consumers for up to 1 year. So in theory, that would allow you to sign up and then they would scan the quote-unquote dark web and see if your information has been posted out there. I did want to include this little caveat that I have right here, that Equifax originally said that by signing up, you would opt into arbitration and waive your right to take part in the class action lawsuit for the credit monitoring service. But this waiver didn't apply to the breach at large. Just wanted you to know that the company later dropped this restriction for the free credit monitoring service, saying customers who sign up because of the data breach aren't subject to the clause and won't be prevented. So these are 3 resources for free credit monitoring. If you find that your name is in the list from EquifaxSecurity2017.com, you may want to visit identitytheft.gov. That is a government website where you can go, and depending on what is compromised, they have a very nice resource there by Social Security number, by driver's license number, by credit card to say, if the breach affected these, here are specific actions. And we have taken a lot of that information and put it for you today in the briefing as we're going through. Other tips. So again, if you're impacted, we already talked about scanning your credit reports. We talked about setting up a credit monitoring service. Another thing you should consider is for each credit service is placing a credit freeze on your files, okay? So if you were to do this, you're going to have to contact or work with each one of the 3 agencies. You would need to independently request the credit freeze. What that's going to do is prevent someone from automatically opening a new account. So essentially, you're locking your account, and therefore, once it's locked, that's going to, in theory, make it harder for somebody to open a new line of credit. Some folks think, well, that could be a challenge. That would imply that if you lock your account, you know you want to open a new line of credit, you are going to have to come back and unlock that account in order to open that new line of credit. So that is thought to be one of the best, easiest defenses because it prevents arbitrarily someone other than you opening an account. In theory, you know if you want to open a new line of credit. So if you lock it, keep it locked. That's probably the safest single action that you can take if you do it on all 3 agencies. Okay, now let's say that you decide, I may be opening some credit here pretty soon. I don't really want to take that risk. You don't do the credit freeze, you still may want to reach out to all of the organizations and put what they call a fraud alert on your account. Fraud alert, again, warns creditors that you may have been subject to identity theft, so they're going to do some additional verification. So the locking is probably the most secure. You'd like not to do that. The fraud alert would be the second thing to consider. Next, this is something that happens every year, but you may want to consider filing your taxes early. If you file your taxes early and your Social Security number is out there, obviously the first person that registers a tax return under your Social Security, they're the ones that lock it in. So if that's a hacker, they may beat you to the punch. Every year, a certain percentage of folks have this happen, okay? Again, tax identity theft happens because your Social Security number, if it's in the group out there, allows someone to have your name, Social Security number, and address, and they can apply for a tax refund in your stead. Moving on down the list, what are the things to worry about? Well, we talked about social engineering. Okay, what is social engineering? Well, that's the art of manipulating people to give up confidential information, okay? So just keep in mind that if your information is out there compromised, they have your name and address. Doesn't take a lot to look you up and give you a call. Ring, ring. This is Equifax calling to verify your account information. Just be mindful that Equifax is not going to do that, first of all. And you want to be very wary of anybody calling you, asking you for proprietary information. Really, the best thing is if someone calls or someone emails, do not talk to them on the call. Do not respond to the email. Go look up the official number, call them back. Go to the official website, check that way. But don't assume that the source that is coming to you is the legitimate source. Okay, moving down the list, okay? Again, this is what I just already said. Don't believe anyone who calls and says you'll be arrested unless you pay your taxes or anything else. Part of social engineering is often to create a false sense of urgency or sense that you're going to have a penalty and to try to get you to make a quick, rash decision and give up other information that you shouldn't be giving up. Okay, other tips. If Equifax does indicate that your credit card, remember there were 209,000 credit cards that were exposed, so you would want to contact your bank credit card company, cancel your account, request a new one. You do want to keep a monitoring eye on your transactions. Of course, if you do find fraudulent charges, contact the fraud department. And then don't forget, most of us have some automatic payments set up. So if you do that, get your new credit card, submit your new credit card number, and so there is no lapse there on your side. Okay, finally, if they also indicate that your credit card number, or excuse me, your driver's license number was impacted, you do want to contact the motor vehicles branch here in Missouri or where you may be if you're outside of the area and report a lost or stolen driver's license. This does give them the ability to flag your account so that they know at least that it was lost. Final takeaways, okay? The Equifax compromise, okay, happened in mid-May, but really it could have been prevented because there was a patch released on March 6th. So really Equifax had the opportunity from March the 6th through mid-May to do the patch. And at any time in that 2-month period, had someone gone and put a security patch out there, this whole thing could have been prevented. From a computer takeaway, all computers have security vulnerabilities, servers have vulnerabilities, patches come out all the time, second Tuesday of every month. Microsoft releases all the security updates. Just remember, the patch comes out, that day that the patch comes out, hackers around the world are looking at that. They're determining the day a patch comes out, hey, what are the new vulnerabilities? And hackers are counting on the fact that you will not have the time to quickly deploy that patch. So just remember, second Tuesday of every month, Microsoft announces the vulnerabilities. That means Wednesday, the following day, there are scans going on trying to find those holes. So if you do not have a system in place, consider doing that. And then the final takeaway I put there on the bottom is if your account was compromised, Equifax is offering you a year of protection. Keep in mind that your data lives forever. Once it's out there, it's like a lost picture. It's out there, hackers can get it for a lifetime. So if your account is in the compromised list, you are going to need to monitor your account for an entire lifetime. Okay, that's really, that completes our briefing, or my briefing here today. Listed my contact information there and email address if anyone would like to reach out. Well, very good. So then I would just say thank you very much. If this presentation will be put up on our website later on for reference, and you have my contact information if you'd like to reach out later. So thank you.